Hello and welcome to this very special episode of UX Conversations. My name is Aka Rudolph. I'm director of the UX Design Awards and head of strategy at International Design Center Berlin, IDZ, the awards organizers. In our UX conversations, we usually talk with a single members of the jury about their background, their expertise, and what's relevant in design according to them. And as I said, this is a very special episode. So we actually invited 4 judges from the previous awards season to come together and to talk a little bit about their impressions, what the judging was like for them, and to share insights about what they also think is important when you want to successfully communicate your design. So underlying basically this talk are issues that I feel and we all feel are relevant for designers in different situations, not only in terms of a competition. So how do you sell your ideas, and what is vital information for stakeholders? These might be judges, but these might be clients as well, or colleagues and partners. So it's a unique opportunity for you to get some insights on these topics, and which we feel are vital for your profession and the design field. And with this conversation, we want also to share insights about the thinking behind the judging process in the UX Design Awards. Also because we believe that transparency and trust are cornerstones of a professional competition. So just very briefly to get you up to speed on the judging process, I'll explain in a few words how we judge entries. So in the first stage, after the end of the call for entries, all judges decide which projects are nominated to enter the awards. That's a basic determination of, let's say, general UX design qualities. In the second stage, in teams of 2, judges evaluated each nominated entry in detail. And so each submission is rated on a scale on each of our 6 judging criteria. And you can obviously read them in detail on our website. So these detailed ratings sum up to a total score, which helps each jury team to shortlist the finalists that they will enter to the jury session. And in that final jury session, all judges together discuss the final entries and, of course, according to the use case and the other projects that are in the jury session. And following the discussions, all judges together vote on the award winners in each category, of course, and whether to bestow a gold award or hand out special mentions. So all jury decisions are made by majority vote and, of course, fully independent of us, the organizers. And it's needless to say that all judges commit themselves to an impartial evaluation and are excluded from voting or even commenting on projects in which they or their organizations may be involved, whether directly or indirectly. So after that brief introduction to our thorough judging process that actually takes about 2 months altogether, I'd like to thank our esteemed jury members who agreed to share knowledge with everyone in our global design community in this talk. And I'm very happy today that there are 4 judges from the UX Design Awards Autumn 23 edition here with us. So let me present them to you. Mine Danishman-Tazar is a senior UX designer at Philips Experience Design and is joining us from Eindhoven today. Hi, Mine, how are you?
Hi, again. I'm fine, thank you. How are
Great
you?
to have you here. With us is Shruti Ramaya, head of design at Zalando from here in Berlin. Hello, Shruti.
Hello, thank you for having me.
From Stuttgart, with us is Bernhard Steiber. He is unit lead and fellow from Intuiti Media Lab. Hi, Bernhard.
Hi there, it's great to be here.
And last but absolutely not least, the chair of the judging panel, Jun Mo Lee, is managing director of Phoenix Studio in Munich, and that's where he is joining us now. So a warm welcome to you, Jun. And above all, thank you for also the initiative to have this conversation.
Hey guys, good to see you again. And also from my side, thanks a lot for taking the time, because I really felt the urge to the desire to come back once again in a different after the jury sessions and to share some thoughts, because that's really helpful for people out there. So thank you also from my side. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here, and I'm looking forward to our talk. Let me start off with like a basic entry to the topic, June. When you reflect back on the participants' work in the last awards season, what seemed to be the most challenging improvement points for participants? So to say, like, what can design teams do to improve the understanding of their entries from a judging point of view?
Very big question. And we all might have a bit of a different take, each jury member, on that question. I really hope to discuss these things, come across different aspects throughout today's conversation. But for me personally, the way creatives present their work, their ideas, how they design the story, the pitch, was probably the most striking improvement point that I could see, and I think we can all agree, or maybe maybe we won't agree, but to me, as with a research and strategy background, it all often comes down to the insight, right? The quality of the insight that is not easy. I think all professionals know that this is a very difficult thing to hit the nail on the head, use the right words. But if people and creatives present their work based on a super strong insight, that automatically leads to a very convincing and clear story, upon which then amazing craft skills can build. So yes, for me, in one word, it is the insight. But I'm actually happy and looking forward to hear some other perspectives from you guys. Shruti, I think I know you're a research girl yourself. Would you also agree that the insight is so important and offers so many opportunities for people out there to improve their work and to have a more powerful pitch?
100%. You knew that I would agree because we worked on the panel together. The way I would phrase it is help us see how well you have investigated and understood your problem space.
Yes.
And let's recognize a lot of problem spaces are not super unique. You know, I work at Zalando. E-commerce is not a super unique space. There are many people who play in this space. So then what we're looking for is, what's your angle? How did you approach that problem space or take a perspective on it? What was your hypothesis about how to create more value, address a need, or create an opportunity for the user that you were trying to address? So I was really looking for, and the cases that really stood out to me were indeed the ones where you had the feeling that the team had thoroughly understood the space that they were working within, and then found an opinion, found an angle within which to then investigate further and develop their solution, even if that, you know, through iterations evolves past the initial insights.
Mm. I can fully agree with this. One thing that I found can easily be improved, and I'm careful about using the word easy, because insights work is hard. It's not easy by itself. But one thing that people could look into is, instead of presenting a 100-page research deck that proves many things, that proves how hard they have worked, that is okay, but then take that work and condense it down to a very strong, short, straightforward statement, which involves, yes, a lot of wording work, but I often feel, and you probably know that from your own work and projects and with clients and on your products, that those moments when we take research and boil it down to the essential strong key statements is actually helpful for us as creatives to fully realize, okay, this is really what this innovation is about. And that gives us a lot of confidence, right? So many words are often easier, we understand, and often we feel we need to prove ourselves with evidence. But what it comes down to in a pitch situation, in business, in awards, is truly the capability to speak in plain language and nail it in terms of statement.
Yeah,
Totally.
I'm wondering also in a big organization, probably like in Philips design, Mina, you would have also developed guidelines and best cases, also because you need to present projects to many stakeholders
Exactly. Yeah.
internally, I guess. So what's your take on this?
Yeah. Stakeholders with no time. So I had
There you
that
go.
keyword in mind, which is an executive summary. So that's
Yes.
what I wanted to see in the presentations, like something that's gonna catch me, hold me in, keep me interested very early on. So I keep digging into the insights and this 100 pages of research that's been done. So that's something like that. Sometimes I miss that, and that can definitely be improved. Like something that's gonna catch my attention, because there were so many submissions that we look through.
Yeah.
So you have to stand out, and the project is done, right? There's not much you can do about that anymore, but there's so much you can still do about how you present it to the jury. So I thought that kind of executive summary approach could be something that can be improved, can be better in some submissions, definitely. Yeah.
What do you
Yeah,
expect in the executive summary? Certain elements?
Well, I was actually thinking, you are presenting to a jury, and this jury, and you're not there in person, so you cannot actually answer real-time questions. So that's something to keep in mind for the people that are submitting their projects, I think. So I was thinking, we are looking into UX, but there should be a UX designed for this presentation as well. A UX that can be supported with the storyline you compose, the visuals you use, the narrative that's tailored for the jury, because we didn't know everything about all the projects. We didn't have background information about everything. Okay, I had healthcare, but not about all submissions. So they need to keep in mind this should be proper for this jury that can't ask questions. You can't answer them at that moment. So I think that the UX of the presentation can also be designed in a certain way that is helping the jury to understand it better.
Mhm.
I would agree to your point to have an executive summary. This is really helpful. But on the other hand, I would also say it's useful to keep in mind that design is not a one-way street. So you also need to be aware which choices did teams have and why did they choose the path they ended up with. So I'm also interested in learning about the journey the team took. So where did you take which turn and why? And that gives me a better feeling why the end result is what it is. Because often you only see polished designs and everything looks neat and fine and well designed, well crafted. But it's kind of hard to say, would there have been a better solution and why did the team go for that? So I would agree to the executive summary, but also explain your journey.
Yeah.
Maybe one thing to add to that point about showing us the journey, what I saw in great applications was it wasn't just checking the boxes. We did research, then we did some panel discussions, then we did some personas, or check all the boxes, say all the right terms. It's about telling you what decisions you made or what you learned from each step of the process, and therefore what you decided to do next. what was your path navigating the different options that you have at each stage, and not just checking off a list of things that you believe you need to do.
Mhm.
And in that way, like you said, Bernard, how were you navigating what you were learning? How were you evolving your understanding? How were you evolving the potential solution? What challenges did you have? What limitations did you have?
Exactly.
Did you have budget constraints? Did you have timeline constraints? Did you have technological constraints? That's also really interesting, because for us, we don't want, if everything was possible, then we'd all design fantastical experiences, but there are always constraints, and they make design interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's a very good point. I think talking about constraints and making sure that you present your work in the context where it was created, right? June, you wanted to add on this?
Yes, as you guys are speaking about the technique on how to present ideas, but also the importance of the journey, I do feel reminded of the basic set of questions that we as a team provide to the participants with the entries, and we all know the power of the humble and simple W question that's out there, and those are a lot of those questions are those humble questions, and yet I found they're often very hard to answer. Right, because I can also imagine that when you hand in work, you're very busy, and you maybe creatives, most of all, also have this wish to actually let their work speak, and not use petty words or presentation technique to actually oversell their own work. But I've regardless of what opinions we have on that, I still believe that we have come to a point in our industrialized world where technique on pitching ideas, we see that in with startups and venture capital business and so forth, is a necessary craft. It actually has become a craft for creatives out there, and the sooner we embrace it and actually enjoy it, even to sell our work, the more fun we'll have, I believe. So there's nothing, because I'm saying this sometimes. You have to tell me also whether you have the same experiences. Selling our work really hard often feels a bit dirty to creators, because they feel like, oh no, I shouldn't sell it too hard, because look how amazing the results are. But I think there is nothing wrong with selling the work that we're proud of.
There's something wrong about selling your work? How do you mean this?
No, but I think you all know what I'm talking about. A lot of we often have these moments with creatives, and they actually say, "Oh no, don't like hard sell the stuff," and the results, they really speak for themselves. And yes, I agree, and yes, at the same time, be more confident about your own work, and why not look into take 15 minutes, look into the structure of an executive summary, look at the structure of look at a video, how companies pitch their startups that really became successful. There's nothing dirty, nothing wrong about those things, and I think that is such a great feeling, because if we've all gone through this, once you realize that you have the technique at the ready to sell your creative work, it is a thing that becomes very enjoyable, because the reactions are so powerful.
And June, I would even say it shouldn't only happen at the end of a project when you present the final result, but selling your idea should actually happen within the creative process, because you have to sell the idea to your team and to the customer, and it has to prove it's the best idea that's possible. So you have to do it even within the process. And why shouldn't you do it after finishing? I mean, it's just continuing the same kind of arguments you have, conversation you have pro idea. So
I just want to add something maybe to what I said about designing the UX of the presentation, because we always hear the body language is like 80% of the presentation. And I remember a case when June was presenting one of the projects they were looking into, and he was selling it so well that we were all like, wow, this project is so cool. And he wasn't sure himself in the end. He was like, yeah, I'm not so sure actually when we were voting. So when they submit something on paper, they miss this, super enthusiastic, passionate way of selling their idea part. So it
Yes.
has to show somehow in their text, in their video. Okay, the video can show it a little bit, but still it's not like being there and talking face to face to someone. So I think if they can insert that part some way into their presentation, that would gain a lot of points.
Agreed.
And this
I
is
would
about
say,
being. This is about being. Sorry, Shruti. I'll just go back to you. But this is to me about being very certain and yes, proud, as maybe June said, also of your work, and then explaining why. So what's the reason behind it, and why are you convinced, right? At different stages, Shruti.
that's exactly what I was going to add. One sort of clue or rule of thumb I try to share with team members is don't assume attention. Don't assume engagement.
Yep.
You are fighting for every minute of a person's mind space, right? And so you should come to it thinking the person in front of you is dispassionate or at worst, even pushing back on the content you have to share. And then you're trying to answer the question, why should you care? You're trying to constantly peel the onion to help the person understand why they should care about what you're presenting to them. Oh, this is a really interesting problem space. Look what I learned about the problem. Look what I learned about the constraints. Look what I learned about, different ways we could solve it. Here's how I tried to solve it. So trying to think of your audience as really not already invested, but you're working for each minute of their mind space.
And if I may to add to this, I mean, we have 6 different questions that people can add information to. And I think it would be valuable, I don't know if you agree with me, to build a storyline through these questions and not just to go into the single topics, but actually to explain from this context, we move that way to, I mean, from the user's challenge, we move to the purpose, the solution approach, why, how did we design in the next answer that you give, and so on. So build a storyline, right?
And you can even, maybe you should even what the projects I found most striking were where people really used video to just tell from the heart what was fascinating about the challenge, about the project, when they introduced their team and you saw the spirit within the team. So it was just great to feel the energy and to understand why it was important to the team. So I would say the questions are really necessary to get a 360-degree picture of the challenge. But the videos, for me, the clue was to have those introductory videos where people transported their emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the pitch videos, actually, that are non-binding. People can add them, but it's interesting to hear that you actually, I think all of you mentioned this now, that it's important to see the people and understand that they burn for something. To everybody you out there, I don't treat the pitch video just as a PR add-on. Actually, it's something very important that can show you and why you're convinced about your work.
I think the way I see the video is another fantastic opportunity that can also quite make up for or be catered to your own preferences in communicating. I think we all know that for some people, writing is a very hard thing to do. And we all know that sometimes just saying things out loud in our own words, not focusing too much on how it's written, brings across the ideas much quicker and actually to the point. And that is a fantastic opportunity to be able to upload those videos. So I absolutely do make use of those. If writing is not your thing, that video can make up for a lot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be perfect, by the way. So it can be really like shot with a phone and just passing. It doesn't need to be perfect and refined. It just has to be natural and honest, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's key.
And
Yeah,
I
it doesn't
think that
need
the
to be
key was
professional
here
at all.
bring the energy over, right? Mina?
Yeah.
No, he said, Bernard said, it doesn't have to be professional. I was just thinking about the influencers on Instagram, for instance. They're not professionals, but they influence. So you don't need all this, super setup to influence someone. As long as what you say is catchy and makes sense, I think that's totally fine.
But also, let's not mistake this. So this is not an Instagram short. Of course, that's one element. But present the facts, present the story, present the insights. Say why you decided what, which decision was built on which facts. Add a short PDF with a user research process and facts, and that was also short, not 150 pages, right, June? And what else?
Yes.
Maybe there is other work that you remember that was where you would say there was something that really touched me in the way they presented. Shruti, you were about to say something?
I was actually going to put maybe a counter opinion, but maybe more of an open question. So, designers, we are makers, and we want to see what you created. June said, some people might want their work to speak for itself. And while that might not be the whole of it, we do want the work to speak. So how would this group think about how we would like to see craft represented in the applications that we saw? I think it's quite challenging, but I'm curious to hear what your opinions were about how craft came across and how you were able to assess it.
I can go. I was thinking because now the tools we use to design, like the software we use to design, for instance, has become so capable that it's both a blessing and a curse. I'm from the times of Flash, where you needed to write a piece of code to move a rectangle from point A to point B. Now you can just dream and do everything with just a button press. Which is great, but on the other hand, it makes visualizing and presenting things in a certain standard way so easy that you end up with sometimes similar looking outputs. And when you say craft, sometimes I saw that in the submitted work, for instance, mobile app solutions. Some of them were rendered in the certain same angle and presented in the exact same setup that it was difficult to tell, okay, which project was this one? So it helps in a way. I think you are free to do a lot, but then it also sometimes the craft side, it's like put in a certain track that you end up with similar looking things. So that is a challenge, how to, guide your design in terms of craft. That was something interesting that I thought that I just wanted to mention when you mentioned craft. But
For me, the craft bit is and has been in our jury session definitely a key to delivering or to actually continuing the story that you're trying to build up, and to fully convince that you put all the effort that is possible into your ideas. Right. So it is not worth less than the inside or whatnot. Is in the perfect world, you have an amazing inside with a very exciting story delivered and perfectly executed. And of course, we're asking here for a lot, but this is what designers do, right? Designers ask a lot from themselves and from everyone else. Craft for me is being able to prove that you love the detail and that you are actually able to celebrate the detail. And then, Mina, you're talking about the UX of the way we present, right? So visualize and guide viewers and the audience to look at something. We can't hold their hair or their heads and then push them towards a certain section of the screen. We do that with perspectives, and there is technique, tools. We all know as creators, we create portfolios. We want people to look at certain details and prove that everything from the grant concept to even the tiniest thing, we treat it with equal love and equal respect. And some of the projects that we have seen, they were exceptional. I think they were actually exceptional. You could see that there was nothing sloppy or hidden in the bag. No, they were very open with actually celebrating their team. I think that is not the only perspective on judging craft, but certainly one thing that I look into, and I like to look into it. I actually enjoy it.
And
So it's
Shruti,
the
I would
details.
even
What
draw
else? Sorry, Bernard.
I just wanted to say, Shruti, I would even draw a connection between our first point to show insights of your work and why you chose what, and having respect for details or love for details is just also just stating your opinion and making a point for the right decision on a craftsmanship side of things. And yeah, I would underline your point. It's quite easy to come up with a good looking design, basic, without doing anything, just applying a component library you find on the internet, right? And so what I found really interesting is that you hardly find any really bad design out there. I'm not speaking of the contest, I'm speaking of design in general, so apps in general. So you won't find any real outliers on the negative side. But on the other hand, it's also kind of hard to find the peaks, the outliers on the positive side. So, and that's what we are looking for. I mean, we all know the basics. We all know those components. I mean, some 15 years ago, you could take 1 week to design a checkbox, so to say. These were the early days where you didn't have component libraries. And nowadays you have got all those basics, and we need the outliers now. So we need really the spikes in a positive sense.
True.
Yeah. So true, and 100% what all of you said. And again, with that thought that you had, Bernard, of like link us through from the decisions you are making to why the design looks like what it does. I think that was sometimes a gap in some of the applications, that we learned about the problem, we learned about their business case, we learned about why they thought this was important, and then there was a design, and there wasn't that little thread from these were the solution ideas, or this is why we thought this is the way to solve this problem. One very specific piece that I was challenged by was when we had applications from a very different cultural context, especially maybe UI in a different language or UI for a very different country, culture, situation. And in those cases, it would have been great to maybe have some scaffolding around the UI to help us understand, what is usual or typical, or are there specific things they're solving for? Maybe some translations to help us look at the designs more effectively. So that would have been a detail that is for a specific group of applicants. That would be great.
Absolutely. I think one thing that we do appreciate, and we all must appreciate, is that terrible truth that nothing is little work, or nothing is easily done and or quickly done. That is the same with focusing or celebrating detail, or actually having that extra time invested into explaining a bit more and thinking through what the audience is going through. Equally, it is not a side note to answer those 6 questions, right? So, and I think that is something I don't even want to say unfortunately, because it is something we all know in business, but I want to stress this point for all the talent out there that sometimes is confused about how much time and energy should I invest into what. That most of these things in a not contest situation only, but speaking to your CEO, speaking to our client, trying to convince and bring up, generate energy with the team. All of these things you said, they're all not little work. They're actually a lot of hard work. And we sometimes forget, because we all have our preferences and think, hey, shouldn't we focus on the motion piece here, or on how great this looks, and on the overall piece? Yes, I think we, bottom line, we everything should become, we should have an overall sight on things, but none of the details are quickly done. And so if you're out there and you have your doubts whether you should invest another hour in answering those 6 questions and doing wordsmithing and so forth, do take that time. I actually think it's really worth it. And the same goes for any other craft work that we all put in.
But I also feel something very important, and I don't know if you agree what's been said now, that actually what you get to see, like the visual design, the products, it's visible, so it's evident. But it's important, it's so key to make a connection between the visual, the product or the concept, and the story, the findings and the decisions, and why a development was made. And as Shruti mentioned, also what is the broader context? What is the cultural context, or what is the situational context? Because that may also have a big influence on a solution, just depending on who is it aimed for, and also what does it, where does it help people in order to achieve the goals, or to get ahead in their work. I remember there was some discussion about quite a good product, actually. I think it was a business solution, and we didn't understand, like, apart from the first usual visual screens, well, what was behind it? How did it help people in the next steps of the work? So it's also vital to show, not just the first, landing screens, and show the whole picture. Don't you agree?
Yeah, totally. There was this bank kiosk, and we all had different projects to look deeper into, and it was not my project. And at first, when I just looked at the pictures, I thought like it was printing out the bank card. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And then I couldn't really understand all the unhappy scenarios came to my mind, like, oh, what about vandalism? What about, printers and stuff? But then the team that focused on that project really explained the use case, the needs of that location. It was for Philippines. So then suddenly it started making sense. Like the picture became, complete. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Actually, it makes the service accessible for people living there. So yeah, now I can understand. So by just looking at the picture, didn't mean much. But when the story that's around it came along, then my total perspective on judging changed. And I thought, yeah, this is actually cool. So definitely not only what you see.
I might say, especially in so the more, let's say, the more specialized a field of application becomes, that is really far away from day to day. So that is, if it's not about shopping or getting the groceries done, or even the ATM machine, but so if those things, they might still be relatable to our own lives, but if it's something highly specialized, it does pay to take that little moment to actually think about, okay, how could I explain why this is so important to me and to the people I deal with, and that they're real pains. Because one thing that you guys also remember is we did have the discussions around relevance, and for us, what is bottom line important is that yes, we can see relevance, not for the entire world, not for everyone, but there is a group of professionals, a group of people out there, whatever constellation that is, and those people, they suffer from certain things or challenges, and they're not worth less or worth more than anyone else. So we were serious about getting our heads into that moment, but it is helpful if so for everyone who works in a niche industry or is working on a niche idea or niche creation, please take us with you. Take us with you, and then show us that magical moment that makes people go crazy or really desperate, and show us, and really show us. It can also be in a fun way, why it's so important that these dilemmata or the dilemmas and problems need to be addressed. And I think then you automatically, everyone is interested in there, and it's so much easier to sell an innovation.
Yeah, exactly.
Agree. And I think even more so, this is important for applications that are more on the straightforward business side of applications, because of course, there's a high affinity among designers for topics that really make an impact on the well-being of the world, so to say, being it on a societal level or on an environmental level, of course. But hey, of course, it's also important to make an impact in everyday life of working people. So it's totally fine to make a really good solution there. And June, as June just said, just explain us why it's so overwhelmingly better than before. And I mean, it's also fair to and price-worthy to have a good solution there.
So true.
So, what would you expect from, let's say, a machine interface for industry, for instance, very specialized field? None of us would work there. What's the information? What would you like to hear or read?
I mean, in this case, I think it's important to have an idea of the context there, because in the industry, context is all. So we had interfaces that would be situated in some big hall with a lot of a whole line of production, where workers would move from one machine to another and would have to grasp information really quickly and operate several machines and so on. So that's one side. The other side is we had one wonderful solution that just covered a really specific detail in an installation cabinet in the basement of a multi-story house, for example. So this is very specific, and you only go there once a year, for example. But I mean, if you go there, you want the solution to be really on point, because you don't want to read manuals, but you want to get that fixed in order to get out of that basement again. So you have to be aware of the context, and do people work there every day, and do they operate that machine 8-hour shifts every day, or only once a month or so?
Again, I think if we're every creative who's very serious about the inside, which is by definition something that deals with people. So if we're just serious about the inside and let the people say, let the people speak, and their voices be heard, what they are going through, and that we actually use quotes, use video snippets, any way to communicate that they're real people and they get quite emotional about certain things. That's already so powerful to start a good story. And I sometimes feel that in the industrial context, we do talk much about those important things such as functionality, ergonomics, efficiency, speed, and so forth. But there is always a connection to people who work in that context, and making people heard is part of a modern design job.
Yeah, exactly. We can't know all situations maybe, but we are capable of empathy. So if they explain, they drag us into that story, we start empathizing with those users, then it starts becoming a story, and we feel for it. If it's code, I think there's something going right there.
Yes. Agreed.
So we've been talking a lot about how to communicate design, how to create context, how to frame it, how to connect what you write about your work to what you can see about your work, and to actually also believe that people who judge your work are able to develop empathy to what you explain, to the story that you present. And so there is a lot of takeouts, I think, that are super interesting, not just for competitions, but also for your everyday work pitches. But let me a little bit open this up towards the end, also to a broader perspective, if I may. I was wondering, so we were talking about really the craft of how to communicate design, but of course, like in the end, when it comes to a jury session and we are arguing, and you are arguing mostly about what's relevant and what's really makes an impact. So I was wondering about a little bit on your takes and maybe different definitions of what makes a design relevant, because as Bernard said, it can be very different. Who wants to start?
Well, I think in a way over the years I've learned that design has some superpowers, right? That other crafts don't have. And for me, it's enabling people in a way. So design can create good tools. That's maybe the most basic thing. But it also can really connect people. So it's a kind of a medium also. So we can communicate stuff, we can link, we can make connections, and I guess in our VUCA world and with complex tools, it's also the third superpower for me is to tame complexity. So to be able to boil it down to an essence and to make seemingly complex stuff operatable. So if you have these three aspects, maybe it's good design or relevant design. Starting point. What do you think?
Wow.
The relevance. I think I'm just thinking about our previous point where we said, look, relevant for whom, and that is something that I want to appreciate, and I want to be aware of always, regardless of what work we do. So relevance to me doesn't always mean that we are radically overhauling reality or the universe or the world, but relevance um, always has a certain context, and that context, I feel, um, relevance usually plays at addressing something that is not an obvious fix of something, but something that is hard to solve. This is usually what I'm looking into when I think about relevance, which is coming back to my original statement. Designers don't solve easy stuff only. Designers can solve easy stuff, but very often designers going into innovation actually tackle hard problems. And hard problems are those that have a dilemma and not just, a functional challenge. They are things that are not easy to find, or they actually require a new perspective, a new way to look at that problem, to then come up with again a solution that offers by itself new perspectives. And those things, I feel, they make a proposition really relevant, without constricting relevance just to highly political things or humanitarian things. Relevance can happen in a very hard B2B context, but the intention of the innovation should always be very clearly focused on improving, providing a better life for people in that context.
I've been thinking, I think it's quite important for me that it's based on viable insights and it's helping to solve a real need, because with design, we can also solve sometimes pretend need. So especially in this conjuncture, I feel like I've become much more critical about it. Like if it's something that the world would be just fine without, maybe we shouldn't do it. I feel like maybe it's too bold, but yeah, because we are talking about climate crisis, overproduction. So I really question, do we need this also? Because there are sometimes really interesting products out there. So I think that has become my major thing when I'm questioning relevance. And also I agree with June. Then the other thing is maybe working on a less visited problem. Like it can be because it's too challenging maybe, or it's just serving for a small group of people, but yet it's still a big problem, like a rare heart disease, for example. So I appreciate that a lot when people, I think, our designers try to focus and solve these kind of challenging problems.
Yeah, I would say that at least the way that you host the panel discussion and the jury session is really good at framing us sufficiently so that we're not comparing apples, oranges, peaches, and bananas together. We're trying to keep things in a space of relevance, because otherwise, like June also said, like Mina said, the bar becomes extremely high. It becomes is this world changing? Okay, this is, I don't know how many of us can claim to have changed the world. So I think you do a good job with hosting the session in a manner where we keep the frame of reference for what we are evaluating. I think I would make a call out, especially to new talent, because thank God they're very optimistic. They have lots of hope for the future. We need that. But that also means that sometimes new talent projects can be like trying to boil the ocean of a problem that's immense, and really, really wide in its scope. And I appreciate that a lot. And I always tell people your final projects or your bachelor thesis or whatever is your chance to fail spectacularly. That's great. But if you're applying here, I think what we are looking for is not the solution to world hunger, but more seeing you take a problem, love it, and solve it in a way that's really interesting and special. So it doesn't have to be huge. It can be a tight problem in overall. It doesn't have to be really wide, but it's how you then investigate that and work through it that makes it, I think, relevant and interesting and important work to look at. Though I do still want to see all the world-changing projects as well.
Please, yeah.
We all do, but I think it boils down to showing that you understand the problem, really. Do you understand the problem? And then show that you can create a feasible, workable, and of course, lovable solution, which is great ask. But understand the problem. Well, isn't that a key?
Yeah, understanding and the things that the two of you are saying, they fit together perfectly well. It's like in good academic practice, one thing that we do, and then even in business practice we should do, is we should acknowledge that there is a size to a problem, and then there are adjacent problems around it, and we should then also be courageous enough to actually say, look, today I am going to solve this one. I'm not saying this is everything, because I'm acknowledging that is a much wider problem. But today I'm focusing on this one, and here you go. I think that has always worked, and gives again another layer of clarity as to, look, I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, and I'm fully focused on getting things right here with this innovation or this creation that I'm proposing.
Yeah, and I want to add to Shruti's point. I think actually we need more of that boldness, not only in projects from an educational field, but also in everyday design work. Because I mean, we all know that we have piled up some problems in our world. In a way, we need to solve them. And I'm still, after like 20 years in the business, I'm still also optimistic that design can make a change. So we have to keep that spirit up, because even if it's not like, if you can't heal the world in one project, you can do it maybe project by project, and you have to always fight for that. So I'm really convinced about that. And that, by the way, was something that made me think from time to time when I saw some student projects, because you have these really bold projects that are reaching very far and aiming very far, and maybe not getting there, but still trying to. On the other hand, I also saw student projects that were a bit too tame. For my point of view, it was more than showing craftsmanship of making a good layout and so on, which is fine, which is needed. But I guess in a way, I always think, well, just use that space, that liberty during your education, to go out there and just dream and be bold and just be challenge the status quo, so to say. Because if those students don't do that, it will get harder in everyday life later on. So I would like really, so please be bold and stay optimistic. We need that.
And of course, you can be bold without
of
wanting to save the world as well, because there's many everyday small problems that are still unsolved. So surprise us with your, putting the pin on a problem which might be very small but very relevant for a group of people.
Yes, there were a lot of AI-powered projects. And some of them were using the AI quite cleverly, I have to say, but sometimes it was just the AI. And then I was like, okay, then. So I think AI has amazing potential, and it's going to be in our lives more and more, and in design as well. Maybe it's going to even challenge the design process as we know it, because there are some things, if it's not done ever before, how do you test it? How do you get insights? Those kind of questions will come more and more. So I think there is huge potential, but it shouldn't be also like, okay, I have UI, I'm done. I had that. Again, as I said, there were some that used it cleverly. I thought there was one project about the nightmare therapy.
Ooh, yeah.
I couldn't convince everyone, maybe, but I thought that was interesting. For instance, it was trying to provide therapy. So if you have a lot of nightmares, then it would render the image that you had in your nightmare, and then make you face your fear. So it was aiming to help you that way. So I thought, yeah, it's interesting actually, because I know they do it with augmented reality and phobias. So if you have a spider phobia, then they kind of show you the spider, not real, and they make you face your fear. So that I think was interesting, but sometimes it was just the AI and it was not so much design. That was, I think they need to think more when there's AI, how it's helping design, or AI is the other way around. So that's something to still explore.
And I would like to stay at that point for a second, because we get many more submissions that claim there is AI in it.
Yeah.
So there is AI under the hood. But so what? So what should people explain about the use of machine learning or artificial intelligence in their product, so we understand it actually has an impact, a leverage, and how does it work? What's the case? What's the data, etc. We don't want to have submissions just saying, "Oh, it's solved by AI," right? What's your ideas about that?
I would say, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
So, so many of the things you mentioned, right, Ake? What is the AI actually delivering? What is the input and output? Why is it better done by an AI? And what are the measures you are taking to make sure that this is respectful, has privacy, unbiased? All of the things that we know are the detriments of AI. Why is it better done by a machine than a human in this case? Is it for scalability? Is it for efficiency? Is it for a capability that a human just wouldn't have? This is also the case now in many of the solutions that we have. It's not just about efficiency, but being really transparent about what's going in, what's coming out, and how are you going to handle what's happening in the middle. Because what we don't want is a magic box that somehow will solve the problem. I have a problem, but there's a magic box and somehow it'll give me the answer. And I want the answer to look like this. Because even though, the AI solutions we're working with now generative AI has shocked us all in the last year. Up until November last year, it was fairly limited what we were able to achieve with algorithmic solutions. So we can't be too simplistic in just saying it will find a way to solve this.
Yeah, a
It
black box
probably will.
is just not credible, right?
Yeah.
We want to know that you understand the tool that you're using, the tool being AI.
Yeah. I think we still need the viable insight. We can't, why,
Yes.
how is AI helping? Okay, AI might help, but yeah.
Yes, the AI should not be the centerpiece that of a concept of an innovation. Well, what should happen is that we are surprised by what we believe is capable using this product or this innovation is capable of using AI, because we haven't expected that AI can be used in such a context or in such a use case or such a situation. If that way of thinking is turned upside down and then explained in a credible way, that is different, right? Because then we're like, okay, interesting take on how to apply AI, rather than here you go, AI, done with everything. That's it doesn't help necessarily. Yeah.
Right, it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
Bernard, what do you think?
Same. I totally agree. I mean, it's in a way, I think it will not only, it should not only, or it will not only be part of the final product, it will also influence our way to come up with ideas and to design. So I guess that will be a big difference in the future, and it already is. And being part of the solution, I think it's just, yeah, as you said, it's just a tool. It's like another capability, like other technology bits also are. So we will, of course, incorporate it in future solutions. It will be a vital part, like augmented reality is already, and like basic algorithms are, which also at some point was new. Now it's just standard, and so AI will also be standard, and it has just to be cleverly implemented. And then, I mean, now it's the new kid on the block, and I guess in 5 years it's just yeah, standard, I guess.
You've been commenting a lot about new talents, and that's, of course, that's where the fun is, because that's where the playground is very open, the playground of ideas, of possibilities. When we were studying, we could do anything. There was no boundaries, and of course, that's the difference between studying and then having to put out a product to the market, where you have to leverage all these constraints and requests and feasibilities, etc. So I'm wondering a little bit your impression about the professional work and maybe the state of the design industry in the professional realm. Are things going into the right direction? Do you see any pitfalls, things that you would say like, oh, I would raise a flag there? Anything?
I think talent is so new talent now. Speaking about academia, students, they are so important because they are still allowed to think, and they're asked even for it, to think freely, to think boldly, as we said before, and to actually project possible futures that in corporations and companies and even in agencies sometimes are not possible, because maybe the industrial application that is more immediate is more important. Of course, there are also visionaries and in corporations and companies. Not to say that it's not possible in the industry, but that is for me at least the importance to underline what's been said before of new talent. Overall, I think what we need to be really careful of in the industry is that we do not play down some of the basic the fundamentals that define design and innovation, and in particular being serious about research, being serious about insights, having a very serious intention that we have impact on people's lives, not just consumers, not just people who pay our bills, but there is a real intention to do good, because the way I see it, the way we see it also in our company is that this is the only way forward. Consumers will not accept at some point other things and other brands that are not serious about themselves. So putting people at the center of our activities is important, and the market developments, I feel they are mixed to some extent. I think we all know that some brands out there are very serious about that, and some are less. But I am still hopeful, and I'm very happy to see that we have forums, we have formats such as our group, and also companies who are indeed fighting for a design and people-driven business that's out there. So I'm quite optimistic.
Yeah, me too. I'm also optimistic, I think. I mean, we have still problems. We still are solving them for humans, yet we have better tools. We have AI. So I think the only thing we can do is do it better, because without, like June said, forgetting the core of it, like there are still humans, there are still problems to be solved. We need to understand them well. No matter what kind of tool we use, we can just use richer tools and make better solutions.
I'm optimistic too, because I see really a learning curve in the design world. Because for me, like 50 years ago or so, it was like the design genius coming up with a brilliant idea and like taking the world with it. So, and everybody was happy and following it. Then we had this strong phase of very thoroughly based design research, and so results had to check those boxes. I have completed several surveys. I have done 10 interviews, and so really like very close to a standard process, so to say. And what I like about the recent years is that this foresight movement has become very strong in universities, and a lot of universities, so that people are starting, based on a decent research, starting to create ideas again. So bold ideas. So we have kind of a combination of both. So the genius and the thorough researcher saving the world. So I'm optimistic.
But step by step, Shruti, right?
Okay.
So I guess we are all optimistic, because being optimistic is the baseline of being designers. It wouldn't be possible to do this work. I think Dieter Ram said that, so I'm stealing it. I would actually say I'm not a pure optimist. Maybe I'm a realist. Maybe I'm living in tension. There's two ambiguities or tensions that I think we are all living in right now, and we should live in. They don't have clear answers yet, and they're evolving. And one is related to technology. So we talked about AI. There's so much development around. You can now generate a UI with a text prompt. You can code an app without writing a line of code. There's a lot of progression that's going to happen in that space. And I think that brings us to a healthy questioning of what is the real value we create. If I'm not making a screen, if I'm not designing a flow, what am I making? Because at the end of the day, I think all of us really connect with being makers. So kind of living in that tension of what am I going to make in 5 years, when I just say, make a checkout screen, and actually 5 years now. Today I can say, design a checkout, and it gives me one. So that's one tension that I think we have to live in, and this ambiguity, and feel the pull of it and navigate it. And the other is a debate that I've seen now in a few blogs and conversations that are ongoing around, are we really human-centered? Or is it just business-centered? And one can argue businesses are humans. Humans are part of life, out of nature, the world, no world, no us. So there's an ambiguity there. But I think thinking about that with every argument we make, every decision we make, and holding that intention of, am I human-centered, life-centered, or business-centered, is a nice tension to live in constantly. Maybe doesn't resolve.
Great point, though.
But those are the kind of two trajectories or questions that I'm seeing us all kind of grappling with in the design industry at the moment.
Right.
I think that's the prelude to the next talk, which would be about the wider spectrum of design between planet, people, and business-centric, and how to get this all together into something that can solve a problem. But I think in a time of multi-crisis, there is enough work to be done in the small and in the large scale. So as long as you are responsible, you focus on people, but also on the world around it, you understand the problem, and you try to create value and know who to create value for, you're probably on the right way. Dear all, thank you so much for sharing these insights and having this wonderful and inspiring conversation. And I'm very much looking forward to the next one, because we'll have a part 2, I think. So we'll be looking forward also to see you on the future jury panels as well, because there will be a second round for most of you. And I very much hope that you want to be on the jury again. And that's it for the special edition of UX Conversations. To everybody who's been watching us and listening to us today, I hope that you've enjoyed listening and have been able to take out some valuable insights that will help you to successfully communicate your work, but also to reflect on your work, which is, I think, even more important. And maybe see you again as an award participant as well. Because if you're working on great experiences, then you can make it count and enter the UX Design Awards. There are still a couple of weeks left. Thank you to all of you, dear Mina, June, Shruti, and Bernard. It's been a pleasure to have you. I hope the same about you. How did you like it?
Definitely. It was fun.
Wonderful.
Thanks
Great.
for bringing us together.
You can find more information about the awards, upcoming events, and of course the recording of this talk on our website, and much, much more content. Just dig through it, and it's all valuable and interesting on uxdesignawards.com. And of course, you can follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and other social media channels. So until next time, take care wherever you are throughout the world. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, night, or day, and see you hopefully very soon again. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care.